right. All right. Shalom, everyone. I'm Brother Doug. I apologize for earlier today. We had some technical difficulties, and I had a little bit of a modesty issue because my pants were not as firm fitting as I thought they were going to be. I had a little slip up on the original recording. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be just re-recording for you guys, like what basically we already read today. So I apologize for that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to like re-record right now. We're doing a re-recording of Judges 1-4. I'm going to try to keep to as little commentary as possible, mainly because after Shabbat, we usually got a lot of stuff to do once it's the first day of the week. So as we're getting closer and closer to sunset over here, it's going to be, imperative that I kind of keep my commentary of these readings to a minimal for this session here. So, and please bear with me, guys. I apologize, but I might be sounding a little snuffled here. I got a little bit of a cold I'm still dealing with here, guys, so please bear with me. So here we go. We're going to start with Judges chapter 1. Okay. All right. So Judges 1. And it came to pass after the death of Yahusha, the children of Yashar inquired of Yahuwah, saying, who shall go up for us against the Canaanites to fight against them? And Yahuwah said to Yehuda, And Yahuwah said, Yehuda shall go up. Behold, I have delivered the land into his hand. So it's talking about the tribe of Judah. And Yehuda said to his brother Simeon, come up with me into my lot, and let us array ourselves against the Canaanites. Let me just make sure here that they're, so the share audio is supposed to be on. So hopefully you guys are hearing me. All right. So come up with me into my lot, and let us array ourselves against the Canaanites, and I also will go up with you into your lot. And Simeon went up with him. And Yehuda went up, and Yahuwah delivered the Canaanite, the Perizzite, into their hands, and they smote them in Bezek to 10,000 men. So the number of 10,000 men. And they overtook Adonai Bezek in Bezek and fought against him. They smote the Canaanite and the Perizzite. And Adonai Bezek fled, and they pursued after him, took him, and cut off his thumbs and his great toes. Let's see here. And Adonai Bezek said, 70 kings having their thumbs, their great toes cut off, gathered under my table, as I therefore have done, so Elua has repaid me. And they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. And the children of Yehuda fought against Jerusalem, and took it and smote it with the edge of the sword, and they burnt the city with fire. And afterwards, the children of Yehuda went down to fight with the Canaanite dwelling in the hill country south in the plain country. And Yehuda went to the Canaanite who dwelt in Hebron. Hebron came out against him. And Hebron, the name of Hebron before was, sorry guys, Kiriath Arbach Sefer, and they smote Sesai and Achiman, Tolmai, the children of Anak, so the Anakites. And they went up there to the inhabitants of Debir. And just a quick expounding here, the children of Anak would be the giants that are the son of Anak. So you have in Numbers 13, you have it talking about the Anakim are there in the land and all that. So that's what that's talking about. And they went up there to the inhabitants of Dabir, but the name of Dabir was before Kiriath Sefer, the city of letters, because that's what Sefer means. It means like an epistle, letter. And Caleb said, whosoever shall smite the city of letters and shall first take it, I will give to him Aska, my daughter, to wife. And Gathoniel, younger son of Kenaz, the brother Caleb took it. Caleb gave him his daughter Aska to wife. And it came to pass, as she went in, that Gathoniel urged her to ask a field of her father, and she murmured and cried off from her donkey, "You have sent me forth into a south land." And Caleb said to her, "What is your request?" And Aska said to him, "Give me, I pray you, a baraka, for you have sent me forth into a south land, and you shall give me the ransom of water." And Caleb gave her, according to her heart, the ransom of the upper spring and the ransom of the low springs. And the children of Yothor the Kenite, the father-in-law of Masha, went up from the city of the palm trees with the children of Yehuda to the wilderness that is in the south of Yehuda, which is at the descent of Arad. They dwelt with the people. And Yehuda went with Simeon his brother and smote the Canaanite and inhabited the Sepheth, and they utterly destroyed them, and they called the name of the city Anathema, which basically it's a Greek word that means destruction. By Yehuda, but Yehuda did not inherit Gaza, nor her coast, nor Ashkelon her coast, nor Akoron, nor her coast, Azotus, nor the lands around it. And Yahuwah was with Yehuda, and he inherited the mountain, for they were not able to destroy the inhabitants of the valley, for Rechab prevented them. And basically, yeah, they failed to destroy the rest of the giants that inhabited the land of Canaan. And they gave Hebron to Caleb, as Masha said, and there he inherited the 3 cities of the children of Anak. But the children of Benjamin did not take the inheritance of the Jebusite who dwelt in Jerusalem. The Jebusite dwelt with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem until this day. And the sons of Yusuf, they also went up to Bethel, and Yahuwah was with them. And they camped and surveyed the Bethel. The name of the city before was Luzah. Okay, so the spies looked. And the spies looked, and behold, a man went out of the city. They took him, and they said to him, "Show us the way into the city. We will deal mercifully with you." And he showed them the way into the city, and they smote the city with the edge of the sword, but they let go the man and his family. And the man went into the land of the Kittim and built there a city and called the name of it Luzah. This its name until this day. And Manasseh did not drive out the inhabitants of Bashan, who is a city of Scythians, nor her towns, nor her suburbs, nor Thanak, nor her towns, nor the inhabitants of Dur, nor her suburbs, nor her towns, nor the inhabitants of Balak, nor her suburbs, nor her towns, nor the inhabitants of Megiddo, nor her suburbs, nor her towns, nor the inhabitants of Yablam, nor her suburbs, nor her towns. And the Canaanite began to dwell in this land. And it came to pass when Yashel was strong, and he made Canaanite tributary, but he did not utterly drive them out. And Ephraim did not drive out the Canaanite that dwelt in Gezer. And the Canaanite dwelt in the midst of him in Gezer and became tributary. And Zabulon did not drive out the inhabitants of Kedron, nor the inhabitants of Duma, and the Canaanite dwelt in the midst of them and became tributary to them. And Asher did not drive out the inhabitants of Akko, and that people became tributary to him, nor the inhabitants of Dor, nor the inhabitants of Sidon, nor the inhabitants of Dalaph, nor Askazai, nor Cheba, nor Ani, nor Ario. And Asher dwelt in the midst of the Canaanite who inhabited the land, for he could not drive them out. And Naphtali did not drive out the inhabitants of Beth-Shemesh, nor the inhabitants of Bethanak. And Naphtali dwelt in the midst of the Canaanite who inhabited the land. But the inhabitants of Beth-Shemesh and Beth-Aneth became tributary to them. And the Amorite drove out the children of Dan into the mountains, for they did not suffer them to come down into the valley. And the Amorite began to dwell in the mountain of shells, in which bears, foxes, in Mizrinon, and in Talabin, and in the hand of the house of Yusuf was heavy upon the Amorite, and became tributary to them. And the border of the Amorite was from the going up of the Akrabin, from the rock and upwards. So as we can see here, the biggest issue, like I said in the original recording, was that you have all these different giant tribes and inhabitants of the land that multiple tribes of Israel did not fully wipe out. So they had to turn them into tributary labor. So anyway, also another big thing was, I mentioned before, was that Caleb giving his daughter to his nephew as a wife seems like a contradiction according to Leviticus 18. So that's what I was mentioning before. It seems a little strange that he's allowed to do that according to Torah, but yeah, that's kind of subjective whether they would be allowed to or not, since Leviticus 18 doesn't mention cousins. It's kind of hard to tell either way. But anyway, Judges chapter 2. Here we go. Here's my favorite chapter here. It says, and Malach Yahuwah went up from Gilgal to the place of weeping, and to Bethel, to the house of Yashreel, and said to them, I actually prefer the Masoretic version actually of this particular chapter. It says, Malach Yahuwah came up from Gilgal to Bochim. He said, I made you go up out of Egypt, and have brought you to the land which I swore to your fathers. I said, I will never break my covenant with you. Just looking at some of these. Okay. And you shall make no covenant with the inhabitants of this land. You shall break down their pillars, but you have not listened to my voice. Why have you done this? Therefore, I also said, I will not drive them out from before you, but they will become your adversaries, and their mighty ones will be a snare to you. Interesting. Sides. Huh. Interesting. Interesting footnote there. It says the Masoretic would read as sides, and then parent dalet resh, indicating the word confusion. Interesting. So that's Judges 2:3 there. So we have the first two verses, though, talking about this person called Malach Yahuwah, messenger Yahuwah, is saying he made a covenant with Yashreel. He's the one that took them out of Egypt, so on and so forth. Which, again, I iterated in the first recording today that this is clearly indicating that this is Yahusha before he took on flesh, claiming to be Yashreel's husband, claiming to be the one that made the covenant with them originally, claiming to be the one that brought them out of Egypt, basically claiming to be Yahuwah. Okay, it happened when Malach Yahuwah spoke these words to all the children of Yashreel that the people lifted up their voice. And I know people are saying, why are you not reading out loud the word of? I'm going to just show you guys really quick. The word of is not in the Greek or the Hebrew. Okay. Okay. So just to show you here, H437 Malach, right? And then H3068 Yahuwah. Of the, neither one of those English words there are in the text. Okay. So in the original Greek or Hebrew, it would read as messenger Yahuwah or Malach Yahuwah. Just to show what I'm talking about here. Let's see here. Okay, so it says right here. Now there is the word the, so you have the messenger Yahuwah. Of is not there. Of is not there. You have kurios and you have agelos. There is not a Greek word for of there. Okay. So that's why I'm reading it as Malach Yahuwah, just to explain. Okay. Okay, and it happened when the messenger Yahuwah spoke these things to all the children of Yashrael, that the people lifted up their voice and wept. They called the name of that place Boikim, and they sacrificed there to Yahuwah. And now Yahusha had sent the people away. The children of Yashrael went every man to his inheritance to possess the land. And the people served Yahuwah all the days of Yahusha and all the days of the elders who outlived Yahusha, who had seen all the great work. Sorry, guys, that he had worked for Yasharal. And Yahusha, son of Nun, the servant of Yahuwah, died being 110 years old. They buried him in the territory of his inheritance in Timnah Serah in the hill country of Ephraim on the north of the Mount of Gaash. And all the generations were also gathered to their fathers. There arose another generation after them who did not know Yahuwah, nor the works he had done for Yasharal. The children of Yashrael did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah and served the Baals. Okay. I'm thinking here, it's either here. Okay, so that's when it talks about that. All right. Verse 12. And they forsook Yahuwah, the Aluah of their fathers, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other mighty ones of the mighty ones of the peoples who were around them, and bowed themselves down to them. They provoked Yahuwah to anger. They forsook Yahuwah and served Baal and the Ashtaroth. So again, Baal, Nimrod, Ashtaroth, Semiramis. That's who it's talking about there. Yahuwah willing, we're going to do a whole study about the exposing the Queen of Heaven and all that. And it's been a request by one of our sisters to eventually do a study on that, of who the Queen of Heaven is, and showing that the Queen of Heaven is not Mary and all that. And how Yashrael, when they became apostate, they started thinking that Yahuwah had a heavenly wife, but really what they were doing was they were worshiping Baal and Ashtaroth and trying to put Yahuwah's name on it, trying to worship Yahuwah the way the nations worship their mighty ones, so on and so forth, mixing, worship of Yahuwah with Baal worship. Anyway, the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against Yashrael, and he delivered them into the hands of the marauders who plundered them. He sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, so that they could not any longer stand before their enemies. Wherever they went out, the hand of Yahuwah was against them for harm. As Yahuwah had spoken and as Yahuwah had sworn to them, they were in great distress. Now, this is important to note here. The hand of Yahuwah, or the arm, is talking about Yahusha pre-incarnate. Just letting you guys know that. The arm of Yahuwah, the hand, right hand, outstretched arm, that is a title for Messiah in the Tanakh. Please excuse me for a second. Yeah, I knew I had to sneeze. Sorry about that, viewers and listeners. Man. All right. Apologize for that. Yahuwah raised up judges who saved them out of the hand of those who plundered them. Yet they did not listen to their judges, for they played the prostitute after other mighty ones and bowed themselves down to them. They turned aside quickly out of the way in which their fathers walked, obeying the commandments of Yahuwah, but they did not do so. Okay, so a little translator note here. LXX reads the word. So interesting. It would seem like the Masoretic is trying to take away from the idea that this is showing. Okay, well, words is actually in plural. I was thinking that the Masoretes were trying to take Yahusha out of the text there, but I guess not. All right. When Yahuwah raised up judges for them, then Yahuwah was with the judge and saved them out of the hand of their enemies in all the days of the judge. For it grieved Yahuwah because of their groaning for the reason of those who oppressed them, troubled them. Verse 19. But it happened when the judge was dead that they turned back and dealt more corruptly than their fathers, and following other mighty ones to serve them and to bow down to them. They did not cease from their practices. They did not turn aside from their stubborn ways. And the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against Yashrael, and he said, because this nation has transgressed my covenant which I commanded their fathers, and have not obeyed my voice, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations that Yahusha left when he died, that by them I may test Yashrael whether they will keep the way of Yahuwah to walk in it as their fathers kept it or not. So Yahuwah left those nations without driving them out quickly, nor did he deliver them into the hand of Yahusha. So because of Yashrael's sin, we see here, guys, this is a good lesson for us to take into our lives. Sometimes our sin can cause Yahuwah to basically allow us to have to deal with our problems on our own. Or sometimes Yahuwah will use stumbling blocks in our lives to test us to see whether we're going to serve him or not. So that's something definitely we should keep in mind there. So anyway, so that was Judges chapter 2. Let's go to chapter 3. Now, Judges 3:1 says, now these are the nations which Yahuwah left to prove Yashrael by them, even as many as Yashrael had not known all the wars of Canaan. So obviously this is a new generation, not the generation of Yahusha, son of Nun. Only that the generations of the children of Yashrael might know to teach them war, at least such as before knew nothing of it, namely the 5 masters of the Philistines and all the Canaanites and Sidonians. By the way, Sidonians are like the Tyrrhenians, Tyre. And the Hivites who lived on Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal Hermon to Lebo Hamath. What's interesting, Baal Hermon. So we have interesting that the Masoretic has Baal Hermon when the Septuagint just says Mount Hermon. That's something to take note of there. All right, so Judges 3:4. They were left to prove Yashrael by them to know whether they would listen to the commands of Yahuwah, which he commanded their fathers by the hand of Moshe. The children of Yashrael lived among the Canaanites, the Hethites, I think it should say Hittites. All right. Hethites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and they took their daughters to be their wives and gave their own daughters to their sons and served their mighty ones. This is an exact basically this is an exact transgression of the command that Yahuwah gave. He said, do not take their daughters for your sons, do not give your sons to their daughters, in the book of Deuteronomy. And Yahuwah even went so far as to say, do not make alliances with them, do not make covenants with them. And yet they did that. The children of Yashrael did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and forgot Yahuwah their Eluah, and served the Baals and the Ashtaroths. Therefore, the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against Yashrael, and he sold them into the hand of Cushan Rishathaim, king of Aram Naharaim. And the children of Yashrael served Cushan Rishathaim 8 years. When the children of Yashrael cried to Yahuwah, Yahuwah raised up a savior to the people of Yashrael who saved them, even Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, and he obeyed him. The spirit of Yahuwah came on him, and he judged Yashrael and went out to war. And Yahuwah delivered Cushan Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia, into his hand. And his hand prevailed against Cushan Rishathaim. I think the reason it says Mesopotamia, if I'm not mistaken, is it's taking from the Septuagint, or similar to the Septuagint. Septuagint will say Syria. Syria is, I guess, traditionally was known as the area of Mesopotamia, because you had Assyria, you had Shinar, Babylon, Akkad, Chaldea. All that was the region of Mesopotamia. Just to explain there, the land had rest 40 years. The land had rest 40 years, and Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died. The children of Yasharel, verse 12, did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Yasharel, because he had done that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah. And he gathered him to the people of Ammon and Amalek, and he went and struck Yasharel, and they possessed the city of palm trees. All right, so the children of Yasharel, verse 14, served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. But when the children of Yasharel cried out to Yahuwah, Yahuwah raised them a savior, Ahud, son of Gerah, the Benjamite, a man left-handed. The children of Yasharel sent tribute to him, Eglon, the king of Moab. I just want to look up something. I don't remember it ever saying he was left-handed. Really? Okay, so this is something I'm going to have to make a mental note of, guys. And what I might do, let me just see here. I'm just going to make a little note, guys. Please bear with me because this is important. Eventually, I do want to do differences in the book of Judges. Let me just see here. Differences in the book of Judges. This is a little like electronic post-it note app I have. It's called Color Note. It's only for Android devices, but you guys are interested, please reach out to me. I could always give you guys a link to this. All right. Just for some reason. All right. So Judges, what was that? 3, 14 or 15. 3:15. Okay. So 3:15. The Masoretic text has left-handed Felix X has both hands. Like, so very weird difference there. All right, moving on here. Sorry about that, guys, for that little rabbit trail, but I did want to write that, type that up there. That's a significant difference. So send gifts by his hand to Eglon, king of Moab. All right, verse 16 here. And Ahud made himself a dagger of 2 edges and a span long. He girded under his cloak upon his right thigh. And he went and brought the presents to Eglon, king of Moab, and Eglon, a very handsome man. And it came to pass when Ahud made an end of offering his gifts that he dismissed those that brought the gifts, and he himself returned from the quarries that are by Gilgal. And Ahud said, I have a secret errand to you, O king. And Eglon said to him, be silent. And he sent away from his presence all who waited upon him. Okay, we are at verse 20. And Ahud went into him, and he sat in his own upper summer chamber. And Ahud said, I have a message from Alua to you, O king. Eglon rose up from his throne near him. And it came to pass as he rose that Ahud stretched forth his left hand and took the dagger off his right thigh and plunged it into his belly and drove it into the haft after the blade, and the fat closed upon the blade, for he drew not out the dagger from his belly. And Ahud went out to the porch and passed out by the appointed guards and shut the doors of the chamber upon him and locked them. And he went out, and Eglon's servants came and saw, behold, the doors of the upper chamber were locked. They said, does he not uncover his feet in the summer chamber? And they waited till they were ashamed, and behold, there was no one that opened the doors of the upper chamber, and they took the key and opened them. And behold, their master was fallen down dead upon the earth, meaning upon the dirt. And Ahud escaped while they were in a tumult, and no one paid him. and no one paid attention to him. And he passed the quarries and escaped to Setirotha. And it came to pass when Ahud came into the land of Yashrael that he blew the horn in Mount Ephraim, and the children of Yashrael came down with him from the mountain, and he was before them. And he said to them, "Come down after me, for Yahuwah Alua has delivered our enemies, even Moab, into our hand." And they went down after him and seized on the fords of the Jordan before Moab, and he did not suffer a man to pass over. And they smote Moab on that day about 10,000 men. Every person, every mighty man. So Moab was humbled in that day under the hand of Yashrael, and the land had rest 80 years. And Ahud judged them till he died. And after him rose up Samagar, the son of Dinah, and smote the Philistines to the number of 600 men with a plowshare, such as is drawn by oxen, and he too delivered Yashrael. So the main 2 points I want to bring about before doing the last chapter here. As you can see, verse 28 says, Yahuwah Alua delivered us into our enemies. Now, obviously, unfortunately, I can't look at the Targums here, but what I can compare here is how now what's interesting here is that the Masoretic just has Yahuwah. The Septuagint has Yahuwah Alua because I believe it's trying to indicate or tell the reader that this is the same person as Yahuwah Sabaoth, Yahuwah of armies. This is Yahusha before he took on flesh. So you don't just have Yahuwah there. You have Yahuwah Alua would be the Hebrew equivalent of Kurios Theos together as a compound name, just to explain about that. And if you guys are interested, I am going to leave a link to a study we did in the past called Yahuwah Elohim, Yahuwah Alua equals the word of Yahuwah, explaining all that. So anyway, that was one of the main points I wanted to bring about. The other one, let me see here. There's one other verse, and then we can continue on here. Just wanted to see what you're talking about. Yeah. All right, so hold on. Let me try to search this because I don't want to waste too much time here. We'll go with search for the word horn in Judges. All right, 3 verse 27. He blew the horn, right? So what I want to look at here, though, is what's actually in the Greek here. Now, sometimes it's karaz, other times it's definitely indicating. Now, see, this is the problem I have, is that sometimes it will have karaz, but it has a it has a indication with the other word for the silver trumpet here. So this is where I say that there's something fishy going on here, because salpizo is a specific Baruch, you mom. Salpizo means a sound of a trumpet, not a ram's horn. So it's very weird that you would have salpizo here. Then you have karaz next to it. Baruch you. That's very confusing to me. I would still say that is talking about blowing a silver trumpet rather than, because if you go with the interpretation is talking about the horn of an animal, karaz does not even mean a ram's horn. It can mean a horn of animals in generic, or of a bull, especially a bull. I seriously doubt they were blowing a bull's horn, okay, let alone a ram's horn. So that's where the modern copies of the original Septuagint, sometimes there's words there that are added in that don't make sense. Very rarely is that word G2768 used when referring to blowing an instrument in the Septuagint. Rarely is that used. Usually it will say salpizo or salpinx when it's talking about that. So, which is talking about blowing a silver trumpet. But anyway, moving on to chapter 4. So this is our last chapter here, guys. So thank you for bearing with me here. And the children of Yashua continued to do evil against Yahuwah. Ahud was dead, and Yahuwah sold the children of Yashua into the hand of Yabin, king of Canaan, who ruled in Asor, and the chief of his army was Sisera, and he dwelt in Asaroth of the Gentiles. And the children of Yashua cried to Yahuwah because he had 900 chariots of iron, and he mightily oppressed Yashrael 20 years. Verse 4, and Deborah, prophetess, wife of Lapidov, she judged Yashrael at that time. And like I said before, on our first ever recording today, on our rough draft we were doing earlier today, this is not a allowance for every woman to be in a leadership role or every woman to be a leader of assembly at all in general. Deborah was a prophetess chosen by Yahuwah, number one. Number two, she was chosen to judge over Israel when they were at their lowest point, okay? I would not be using this to rationalize women pastors or women shepherds, but anyway, I digress. And she sat under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in Mount Ephraim, and the children of Yashrael went up to her for judgment. Deborah sent and called Barak, the son of Abanim, out of Kadesh Naphtali, and she said to him, has not Yahuwah, Alu of Yashrael, commanded you? You shall depart to Mount Tabor, and you shall take with yourself 10,000 men of the sons of Naphtali and the sons of Zabulon, and I will bring to you the torrent of Kisan Sisera, the captain of the army of Yabin, and his chariots and his multitude, and I will deliver them into your hands. And Barak said to her, verse 8, if you will go with me, I will go. If you will not go, I will not go. For I know not the day on which Yahuwah prospers his messenger with me. I will surely go with you, but know that your hour shall not, not our honor, that your honor shall not attend on the expedition in which you go, for Yahuwah shall sell Sisera into the hands of a woman. And Deborah rose and went with Barak out of Kadesh. Now, notice very briefly, I just want to touch on this. Notice how she's making fun of him. Deborah is making fun of this guy, Barak, saying that, yeah, guess what? You know, Yahuwah wanted you to do this by yourself. You're not going to get the honor of this. And it's going to be credit to a woman. Okay. She's basically saying it in a way that basically it's a diss to him, that it is actually a shameful thing that he needed a woman to do his job. That's what she's saying in context. And Barak called Zabulon and Naphtali out of Kadesh. There went up at his feet 10,000 men, and Deborah went up with him. And Kaber, the Kenite, had removed from Cana from the sons of Yobab, the father-in-law of Masha, and pitched his tent by the oak of the covetous ones, which is near Kadesh. Now, just a quick, interesting tidbit. The father-in-law of Masha, according to the Septuagint here, seems to have a similar name to Job before Job converted. So that's just kind of interesting to me. And it was told Sisera that Barak, the son of Abanim, was gone up to Mount Tabor. And Sisera summoned his chariots, 900 chariots of iron, and all the people with him from Ariasaph of the Gentiles to the brook Kishon. And Deborah said to Barak, rise up for this day, this the day on which Yahuwah has delivered Sisera into your hand, for Yahuwah shall go before you. And Barak went down from Mount Tabor, and 10,000 men after him. And Yahuwah discomfited Sisera and all his chariots and all his army in the edge of the sword before Barak. And Sisera descended from his chariot and fled on his feet. And Barak pursued after the chariots and after the army in Arisoph of the Gentiles. And the whole army of Sisera fell by the sword. by the edge of the sword, there was not one left. And Sisera fled on his feet to the tent of Yael, the wife of Chaber, the Kenite, his friend. And there was peace between Yabin, king of Assur, and the house of Chaber, the Kenite. All right, so, and Yael went up to meet Sisera, said to him, turn aside, my master, turn aside to me, fear not. And he turned aside to her in the tent. She covered him with a mantle. And Sisera said to her, give me, I pray you, a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. And she opened a bottle of milk and gave him to drink and covered him. And Sisera said to her, stand now by the door of the tent, and it shall come to pass that any man come to you and ask of you and say, is there any man here? Then you shall say, there is not. Yael, the wife of Chaber, took a pin of the tent and took a hammer in her hand and went secretly to him and fastened the pin in his temple. And it went through to the earth, and he fainted away, and darkness fell upon him, and he died. And behold, Barak was pursuing Sisera, and Yael went out to meet him. And he said to him, come, I will show you the man in whom you seek. And he went into her, and behold, Sisera was fallen dead, and the pin was in his temple. So Alua routed King Yabin of Canaan in that day before the children of Yashrael, and the hand of the children of Yashrael prevailed more and more against King Yabin of Canaan until they utterly destroyed Yabin, king of Canaan. Hallelujah. Praise Yahuwah, man. Oof. Thank you, audience, viewers, and listeners, for bearing with me there. Oh my goodness, that was definitely a decent bit of chapters there. A good 4 chapters I had to read. So again, guys, thank you for bearing with me, and I apologize again before for the technical issues and the other issue from the earlier video today. That video should be deleted. This video should be the new final cut of Judges 1 to 4. So hopefully you guys enjoy this study. And again, I apologize if I was kind of like skimming through these chapters. Even though I was reading chapter verse by verse, I was kind of going a little quickly than usual just because of time restraints I have tonight. But hopefully, Yahuwah willing, you guys will have learned something from this study, that it was edifying. And to all of our brothers and sisters out there, Shabbat Shalom, and have a great rest of your week. Yahuwah willing, see you next Shabbat.